Hello, my friends. How are all y'all doing? Mama Goose, welcome in. The Ship of Fools, hello, hello. Mortal, welcome in. Blaze, A Wolf Alone, Robert. Seer, welcome in. Savage Splendor, good to see ya. Thank you all for coming in. Welcome in. Long Shot, hello, hello. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. It's baby's first multi-stream. So we are live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch, so you can tune in wherever you would like. How are you feeling? I am near delirious with sleepies. You look lovely today. Thank you, dude. Type, I appreciate it. Welcome in. It's so good to see you. Long Shot, welcome back for month 35. God damn, welcome in. How you been? A Noah Nar. Hello, hello, welcome. How are you doing today? I have COVID. So I've been doing a lot of sleeping, and a lot of working. There you go. And we have... Wait, come say hi.
I can say hi.
Get in here.
What's up? I left my phone in the room, so...
Good to see you, Nonk.
Good to see you guys.
Bye. Nonk is hidden by art. I know, Ava and Yurik. It's just the cosplay. COVID was great for me, though. I played Final Fantasy. My wife brought me hot dogs. That's awesome. I have played so many hours of Sims 4. It's not even funny. It's actually... I could have been so productive with this time. Actually, I couldn't have. I say that. It's been a little bit of a struggle just with like the brain fog that COVID induces. Those of you that receive our lovely Troll Lord newsletter that's written by me, and you'll recall earlier this week I sent out a newsletter that had no links in it. In all of the places where there were supposed to be links. So that's the kind of week that we're having, but it could always be worse. I'm very grateful that it seems like it's mostly a relatively like chill case of COVID. The Smoke the Bear t-shirt was dope. I love that t-shirt. It's such a good one. Need some Tales of Aihrde tonight. Looking forward to this. I hope you recover quickly. Casualty, thank you. Thank you so much. It has been way too long since we've done one of these. I think it's been 2 weeks? 3 weeks? I don't know anything. We've established that I don't know anything right now. I'm glad that you and Nick got to quarantine together. It's hard to do alone. So much easier with a homie. It has been really nice. He has it too now, so we've just been like on the couch doing absolutely nothing. What are these images we're seeing? These lovely images here are art. Of Yurik Gunshoff, Ava, the Ranger of the Darkenfold, and a few other characters who are like the protagonists in some of the fiction books that we've been reading here. We won't be reading about Yurik and Ava today. First time watching the stream, what's the format? That segues perfectly into what we're going to talk about. So if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Grace, and every Monday, theoretically when I'm not sick, every Monday, we get on here and we learn a little bit about Aihrde, which is the world setting of the game Castles and Crusades. Of course, just like with any other tabletop RPG, you can play Castles and Crusades in any setting that you want. You can homebrew one, whatever. But Aihrde is, the one that we've published. And I just lost where I was. Aihrde is the system setting that we've published here at Troll Lord Games. It is incredibly detailed, and sometimes we read fiction that is set in Aihrde, like with these characters here. And other times, like tonight, we read through the Codex of Aihrde. Let me actually drop a link to that in the chat, just so you can check it out if you haven't already. This is going to be our second time reading through the Codex of Aihrde. And if you're just now tuning in, you've picked a good episode to tune into. Because, there we go. We are beginning the second oration. The books are kind of set up into orations. Hey, Willie the Rat, welcome back for month 41. God damn. I'm excited to hopefully see what Gary Con. And Mortal, thank you so much for gifting that sub to Nonk. You love him so well. We appreciate it. We never expect it. Thank you for supporting the channel. It goes a really long way to support us and to show us that you guys like what we do here on Twitch and now other platforms. So we're super excited about it and we don't take it for granted. So thank you for spending some time here and certainly for supporting. It means a lot. I'm so excited because we released some news earlier today. I know I totally abandoned the thing that I was just saying about the second oration, but more importantly, Gary Gygax is returning to the page. We have received a bunch of permissions to publish so much. Coming up soonest, most recently, I don't know, the next thing we're doing is the Fantasy Worlds series. That was originally 7 volumes that were published between 2001 and 2008 and left the shelves in 2008. And originally more volumes were planned. And so it is our hope with this Kickstarter to publish those 7 volumes and perhaps even bring some others back to the light of day for the, well, not back to the light of day, to the light of day for the first time ever. Let me just put this link in chat. But as I was saying, I got distracted. I distracted myself. The second oration, well, I suppose I should start with the first oration. The first oration is kind of the world of Aihrde before there was any people. So we have the Allfather, who is kind of the almighty creator of this world, and Inza, who is the almighty creator of her own world, which kind of is on the underside of Aihrde, the world of Aihrde, not Aihrde the guy. The guy's name is also Aihrde. It gets confusing, but you catch on. And throughout the first oration, we learned of the first war of the gods, the Allfather creating these other gods, trees, the sun and moon, that sort of thing. And the second oration is called the beginning of days, which is kind of where the world is starting to be populated with, like, humanoids, for lack of a better word. I can't say sentient people because in this world, the trees are actually a sentient race. So there were sentient people in Aihrde before humanoids. Named it after himself, right? Like, how egotistical can you be? But if I were an almighty god, I might do the same thing. The Allfather is giving George Foreman vibes. You just look up in the sky, and instead of like a dude with a white beard and a long flowing hair, you just see George Foreman's face. That would be a great world to live in, honestly. But I see no reason why not to simply just go ahead and get started. So, again, those of you that are new here, welcome in. This is a great stream to, like, body double to. So if you have, like, homework or cleaning that needs to be done, or you're, like, drawing or doing any sort of creative project, settle in and get cozy. Get yourself a blanket, a nice beverage, and we're gonna start reading. Do let me know how the audio is. If it's, like, weird at all. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Also turn this down. Oh, you won't be a GaryCon. I'm sad. I'm sorry to hear that. Next one. Second oration of the beginning of days. Wherein the All-Father grants life to the dwarves, the men, and giants, the rise of the Red God, and the fortifying of time and his contests, of the coming of the merfolk, and the love of gods. The chroniclers account this, the second Rin, upon the arc of time. Of the Aihrde. The rhythm of ages settled across the wide world, and Aihrde watched the bountiful harvest of the arc of time. Wide plains of grass carpeted much of the world, washing hills, dales, and highland prairies in tides of green, and they were fenced by towering snow-capped mountains. Flowers bloomed in the fields, and forests abounded on the banks of tumultuous rivers and broad lakes. Rivers flowed, lakes pooled, and oceans moved to and fro. Beasts fair and foul made tracks through the forests and plains. They climbed hills and mountains, cavorted in the blue heavens, and swam in the shallow waters, or drifted in the deep places of the world. The lesser of the Val Irricún began the rituals, and the gods settled into their rhythms, guiding the world and laying their thoughts upon it. Hey, Chuck, welcome in. Aihrde looked upon all these things and was pleased, but was not entirely content. Hey, Ship of Fools, thank you so much. For the world seemed incomplete and hollow. The trees spoke softly, and the gods labored on their own designs. The seasons unfolded, bringing rain or snow, or hot or cold. And it seemed to Aihrde that the world stood still, and his labors incomplete. He thought then to make a race of creatures to fill the silence of the world, not with noise, but with creation. In the end, he returned to his labors, shaping the greatest and most fell of his creations, for after the dwarves, the world would never be the same. Aihrde labored long and hard upon his forges, pounding upon the substance of creation. At first he could not shape his vision, and he became angry, and his anger fired the forge. He used his tools and lit the embers of desire with the language, and tried to force the shape he saw. But this did not work as he intended. He shook the stuff in his hands, shaping it into molds, but the molds, once set, became hard and would not change. Brad, thank you so much. He bellowed at the iron and stone that served him, for it was unyielding. He raged against it, and his voice rent the heavens, so that huge bolts of light tore the fabric of the air, echoes of which remained ever after in places far and away, returning at times in raging storms. In this way, thunder and lightning came and spoiled the gentle rains. From that day to this, as often as not, the echoes of the All-Father's rage carried through the heavens, unleashed in thunder-clad bolts and winds that turned to deadly storms. The All-Father fashioned many forms upon the forge. Some were tall and thick, but they did not capture the image he bore in mind, and he set them aside. Others were shorter than the first, but these proved too frail. All these he pushed aside, though he bore them no ill will. And the last, he took up his great hammer and smashed it into the molds, and the hammer itself shattered. A blinding light exploded across the world, followed by a concussion that rolled over hill and dale. The shards of the hammer flew high, burning white as they fell back to earth, bursting into flame as they passed back through the clouds. They fell to the earth in a rain of fire the likes of which the world had never seen, nor shall ever see again. Thus, the Eargild metal came to Aihrde, and it lay in the earth, buried where it fell in those long ago days, and the dwarves lusted for it like gold, for it came from the Allfather, whom the dwarves had named, and was powerful beyond all understanding. Before even the iron fell to earth, Aihrde howled in rage. Excuse me. Gotta hydrate. Aihrde howled in rage, and he took the substance and shaped it with his own hands, bending it to his insurmountable will, twisting it into the shape and form he desired. At last, tired and spent, Aihrde brought the dwarves into being and breathed the breath of life into them, passing a portion of his essence into the dwarven folk. And the first of them opened their eyes and saw him shrouded in stormy heavens lit with the fires of his shattered hammer, then fell to earth. Aihrde wondered at his creation. They were odd to him, not filled with the beauty of the world, but rather its strength and his anger. He looked upon them for a great while, and they returned his gaze without fear, but with a love that only stone can know, a love hardened in the furnace of creation, as iron or other metals, and one that roots deep in the earth. The first of the dwarves to speak called upon him, naming him then in the speech of his people, Aihrde, which is Father of all things, or Creator, or, in its simpler form, Allfather. His words were as stone, and reflected the iron will that Aihrde set into the dwarfs. Aihrde, we see that you stand over the world, and that yours is the spring from which all things come. What would you have of us? Set the price, so that we may pay the debt. This dwarf was Hlothfer, and named the greatest of all the fathers of dwarves for his unflinching courage. Though others quailed at the speech, the Allfather heard it and knew that it carried no threat or hint of malice. Rather, the weight of stone was in it, and even as a stone sees the world, so too do the dwarves. All things are transient, held to the ravages of wind and rain, but the stone stands to the last, hard. Aihrde did not answer Hlothfer, but returned to the forge of creation. But the dwarves took heed of Aird's silence, and saw the answer in his actions. It came to them then, in those early days of their lives, that they must pay the debt in kind, that the Allfather created for the joy of creation, and so must the dwarves. Ever after, they labored in the making of things, in fashioning homes and tools, in shaping rocks, carving mines, building towers, and later, walls of wood and stone. Each dwarf came into the world with the debt of life upon their soul, and it was theirs to repay the Allfather by leaving something behind, great or small. This they called the Andanuth, the debt of life. Through it, The desire of the forge became the fire of their lives. They also took from the Allfather that actions speak where words must fail, and always they set aside pointless deliberation once their minds settled on a task. When the breath of the Allfather came to the dwarves and gave them life, some of it passed over them and carried down the great forge of his desire and settled in pools upon the discarded creations of his earlier efforts and brought life to them. These creatures stood alone and apart from the Allfather, though they heard and saw the dwarves on high. But they had been set aside and were, in the first of their lives, lost. Did the dwarves actually name Aihrde? Yes. Yes, they did. Also, Aihrde and Aihrde are spelled differently. So Aihrde is the world. Aihrde is the Allfather. There we go. But yes, the dwarves named Aihrde. Where was I? Oh yeah, they were in the first of their lives lost. In this, they garnered the love of many of the gods, for they felt the weight of his rejection, both the good and the bad, from the dawn in the days before days, and they felt a kinship with these the Allfather cast off, and they sought ever after to guide them, teach them how the world might unfold for them, and where its riches and treasures might lie. In this way, the giants came to be, and they followed whatever path they would, and the men split into many tribes and moved hither and anon across the world. The gnomes, least of all these people in stature and numbers, wandered alone into the wilderness, even before Halathur spoke to the Allfather. These four peoples, the sages account the Aihrde, the people of the Allfather, though they were not the last. For the most part, the dwarves shunned the guidance of the gods, though in later days they had dealings with them. They treated with Corthane, for in him they saw the purpose and will of the Allfather. Mordias they came to love in their own fashion, for she spent herself in the act of creation, and they marveled at the grasses, manifold plants, and trees whose making she had a hand in. Other gods they paid little heed to. In their early explorations, they spent a great deal of time with Orndul, for in him they learned of dark places and how to see where there was no light. They loved the cool under the earth in the caves, for there they were closest to the maelstrom and creation. Under the earth was his domain, and he treated with the dwarves in those early days, though he never spoke to them of his secrets, not the catacombs, nor of the gems, nor gold, nor aught else that he valued. But of all the Val Ericune that came before them, they loved none as the Allfather. The arc of time spun on as the Allfather took measure of the dwarves. When at last he took stock of them, he saw in them the knowledge of the debt owed, and he decided that he loved them greatest of all. And so he scattered them across the plains and mountains to see what they would do, and how they might pay their debt. The dwarves were different from all Aird's other creations, for they did not know his mind, and they sought to shape the world for themselves. The dwarves traveled everywhere, into the forests, across the seas, atop mountains and hills and beneath as well. They did not propagate quickly like the trees, but slowly like dragons. And they built things. They could not master the language of creation, but they used pieces of it in their labors. Indeed, they were the last, but for a few, who ever used the language. Unlike any of his other creations, the dwarves surprised the Allfather in their desire to fashion things from the world. This bemused him for a great while, and he watched them build homes from wood and stone. He watched as they entered the cavernous worlds beneath the mountains to make halls, and marveled whenever they fashioned boats to cross the open waters, an idea that never occurred to the Allfather. He saw them as different from all his other makings, for he saw in them desires not his own, wonders that he had not placed within them. This proved true of the dwarves, gnomes, humans, and giants, for they all shaped the world of their own accord, and in the days before days stood free of the machinations of higher governance. The dwarves became plentiful, and in those days occupied the whole of the world but for the skies. They crossed the mountains and hills, forded rivers and streams, came to know the plains, the riverlands, swamps, tundra, and all else besides. They built homes of sod and wood and learned the fashioning of tools. This age lasted a great while, as the dwarves came to know the world, and they remember it fondly in tales of long ago. It came to pass that the Allfather came to the dwarves, seeking to guide them and help them master the forge. In those days, the largest host of dwarves dwelt in camps along the rim of the western mountains. They lived wild and free, in small groups or large, as befit them. Some were only beginning to wander into the east and north and south, plying the world's corners with their journeys. These missed the wisdom of the Allfather, for even those who heard his voice in the distance chose not to return, seeking rather their own paths. The Allfather set to teach the dwarves the language of creation. For a great while he attempted, but he failed, for the minds of the dwarves were like tablets, and though they could remember them, the subtle power of the words was lost on them. The Stone Fields. The arc of time weighed heavy upon the dwarves, so that they marked the length of their lives in years. They were the first to do so. Unless harm befell them, the greater part of the dwarves lived 4 or 5 centuries, though the strong-willed lived much longer than that. When their bodies played out and died, the breath of life broke free of the body, and the flesh returned to stone. The breath of life, freed from its physical form, wandered listless in the world, without house or home. Eventually, the spirits of the departed drifted upon the arc of time and followed it through the maelstrom, where the arc pooled at the edge of all. Here, the breath of life lingered in the dark pools of spent creation, neither living nor utterly unmade. The maelstrom threatened to devour them, such that their souls might be utterly lost to the world. Seeing this, the Allfather was not pleased. So he took the homeless souls and rose above the maelstrom and looked out into the great empty. There, he cast a thought upon the void and made a place for the breath to dwell, a land of mist where matter assumed the form of the breath's desire. There he set the breath, the souls, to dwell, until the Gonfod should come. The breath of life of the dwarven dead dwelt in the space the Allfather created, and made of it a field to their own liking. In time, more dwarves died, and they too rose and took the path laid out for the noble dead to the plain of mist, there to mingle with their fallen kinsmen, to build their own dreaming. Soon, the souls of departed dwarves peopled the plain, and it took shape of their will, from the echo of their lives on Aihrde, with high mountains, green fields, and blue skies. Pillars of stone rose to honor their memories, and to help them remember what and who they had been. And these pillars dotted the landscape. Thus, these fields earned their name, the Stone Fields, and there the dead came to dwell. The Allfather bid Thoth, who dwelt upon the arc of time from its beginning to its end, to marshal all the breath of life together and to guide them to the Stone Fields. And so, Thoth became the keeper of the dead, and this task fell to him as he knew that it would, for in him lay all the wisdom of the Allfather, gained during his creation in the long ago days before days. He did not gather only the souls of dwarves, but man and giant too, and in later years, all the others who departed. Of the Val Iracun, he found those who might aid him in his task, and of them all, appointed Heth as a guide for the dead. It was Heth who later gathered the crows and ravens of Wennefar's making, and gave them the power to speak with the living and the dead so that he might pass judgment. For this reason, those birds knew both the love and the fear of all the Val Aihrde. Thank you. You are right. Is that better? Thank you, love. But Thoth could see that some of the dead were not deserving of the Stone Fields, and these he abandoned, and left them to walk upon the arc of time where they might enter the empty pools, and spend their days until the Gonfod in lonely dejection. Others became lost for their evil deeds, doomed to wander the Rimfelt, or be consumed in the Gaglemesh, or to linger on the edge of all. Hey, Dougie, welcome in, my friend. Good to see you. Sorry, buddy. That's quite a word, the Gaglemesh. The Gaglemesh. It is known that the arc of time served as a road for all things that left the living world. Drifting beyond the Allfather's creations, the listless dead, those not deemed fit for the Stone Fields, followed the arc until its end. They were those who misspent their lives in evil thoughts or deeds. Where they gathered, riding upon or devoured by the endless pools. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. There they gathered, riding upon or devoured by the endless pools, where time began and where the arc of it played out, gathering at the bottom of creation in an impenetrable darkness. But Orndul knew of the endless pools, and long coveted their cloaking shadows. He saw the listless dead of dwarf, man, gnome, and giant gathering there, beyond all hope or aid. Here was the moat in the Eye of Aihrde, and here Orndul set to building his house. He hollowed out a great cavity in the void and divided it into 5 pools. He harnessed some small portion of the river of the Arc of Time and bent it so that it flowed away from the endless pools and gathered in the hollow places he dug. He bewitched the Arc itself so that many of the Val Irkun who were weak and evil drifted from it and followed his own path, the Rimfelt, to its end. He gathered the dead who drifted toward him and bound them to him as slaves to serve him in the 5 pools. During all these machinations, he discovered other creatures who lingered in the endless pools, fearful of the world or the wrath of the All-Father. These creatures had names of their own design, even as he, the Aru, Succubus, Volcreed, Kull, and the Seer, and others besides. Some he bound to him, though others would not have it so, but he brought them all to the 5 pools. In that time, Orndul ordered the making of his house far from the eyes of all others. To do so, he gathered the listless dead and forced them to labor upon a castle. He dug deep a chasm that opened a rift into the maelstrom, so that any who fell through plummeted into that cauldron and were there unmade. He set a bridge across the chasm and built a great barbican upon the far side. In the barbican he set a portcullis made of the iron of his will. There he constructed a great wall that extended the length of the chasm for distances beyond the understanding of time, and only the bridge and barbican breached them. Beyond the barbican lay a vast courtyard, and beyond that, the many-storied buildings, keeps, and walls of his castle that he named his home, the Homeless House. No gate guarded the house itself, for Orndul was always vain and did not believe any could pass his iron will. The Homeless House, as vast as it was, proved only a small moment in the vast inky blackness of the endless pools. About this time, Toth took note that the Arc of Time was bewitched, and that he knew not where one of the streams went. He moved to gather it back into the fold, for his task was to govern time and all that rode the Ark. But this brought him into conflict with Orndul, and the Red God chafed under the eye of the shadow. Gotta hydrate or dihydrate. Orndul immersed himself in his hollowed cavity and wrapped himself in time. Thus armed, he came to Toth to converse with his tormentor. I would my constructs be my own, without the eyes of the shadow of my father upon them. It is not mine to decide what I see and know, for I am the shadow of all things that are of the All-Father, and all things are of the All-Father. I am that shadow until the Gonfod, the end of days. The Gonfod is only a rumor. He would not unmake all that he loved. One second. Let me put that on Do Not Disturb. 1 second.
Dude, I'm so sorry.
You're good. I forgot which button it is.
Well.
That was crazy hearing myself twice. Thanks, love. Anyway. That's Nick's work phone. Sorry about that. Anyway. Dialogue. The All-Father has given of himself to make all things. With every act of creation, he is made lesser than he was before, though far greater than all we have or can ever have. But all that he gives passes down the arc of time to gather here in the endless pools. When the last of the All-Father passes the arc to gather into the pools, the river of his thought shall end, and all that is shall end with it. These things are the Gonfod, the end of days. Orndul looked upon Toth, and time played out around him, seeping into the endless pools. It shall not be so, for I shall not permit it. I have seen Aihrde's weakness, for it is I, and I alone, who dared challenge him in the beginning, and in his wound I saw the power of our own direction. You may not stop the Gonfod, for it is as the All-Father designed it. No, I too am of the All-Father's making, and I alone was given the will to survive without his sufferance. I have made my own pool, and this I shall govern until unmade by him. A shroud of confusion lays upon your house, and the waters of time that flow around it. But you have no claim upon even that time, for it too, though hidden from my gaze, is the river of his thought. You are mistaken, Toth, for you do not know the mind of the All-Father. You are but a shadow of what is to come, and what might have been. And shadows are but poor mirrors of their masters. I am the hidden thought of Aihrde. In me lies his true desire, and the end of times is not what he seeks or has ever sought. I am the dam to the river of time. I shall stop its flow, and the end of days will not come to pass. The Gonfod is a dream. And Toth grew doubtful, for he was the mirror of the All-Father, and knew that in all things the All-Father created lay his thought, and in Orndul lay Aihrde's hidden desires. And of all things the All-Father knew, Toth also knew, but for two, and one was the mind of Orndul. Toth then foretold that Corthane and many others would attempt to stop Orndul in his bid to maintain the world, and that Corthane would unleash the fortress of Aiul, the Vesk, that lies at the beginning, and sail the arc of time to confront his brother. There, the brothers would wage war against one another at the end of time. Orndul saw that it was true, and he took counsel with himself. For his part, Toth failed to control the strand of the arc governed by the Red God, and he saw it as the fate set by All-Father. And Orndul was able to finish the homeless house in quiet. The house served Orndul as a fortress for many ages. There he built his armaments, crafted sorcery, made beasts of wild abandon, guided his servants, tortured his enemies, and devoured any that he snared upon the ark, forcing them to serve his will. He began to build an army, gathering all those of foul disposition and evil intent about him, arming them or cloaking them in sorcery. And it is known that the homeless house became a bastion, ever filling with an army of great size, meant for the days of the Gonfod, when time should end. Thus, it was that one branch of the Arc of Time ended in a nightmare, the Gilgamesh. Orndul poisoned the Gilgamesh with his greed, and the poison spread until the pool became a place of wretched madness. The homeless house served as a center for the madness that men later called the Wretched Plains, a madness that attracted creatures both bent and foul. Around Orndul, the plains became a madhouse where thoughts took shape and the listless dead wandered in a state of confusion, if not suffering. What had been an afterlife of quiet, dark, and mindless waiting became for the accursed a torment, for many evil souls found themselves bound to the will of the Red God. Excuse me. I think we got time for one more chapter here. This is a tone shift. Aihrde and the Gates. Anyone who knows anything about Aihrde knows. Well, anyway, I'll just read it. As Orndul harvested darkness in the caves of the world, Corthane settled in the fortress of Aiul, Mordius built gardens of wondrous beauty, and Aihrde settled into the deep waters. When first he entered the world, he wandered far and wide, always in a watchful quiet. But at last, he came to a cliff that overlooked a deep ocean. He looked into the waters and was amazed. They stood still and lifeless, but were deep and full of promise. None had yet braved the water, for the All-Father himself labored in the dark upon the land, and all those who followed him were near to him. But Aihrde was ever his own, with little care or concern for the machinations of others, and with a booming laugh he leapt from the cliff into the water. Thus the first waves came to the world's oceans, and they tore across the deep waters, creating a tumult that washed away islands and battered the coasts of the world. I'm starting to lose my voice. Pardon me. Aihrde swam through all the deeps, and he took a form that propelled him at terrific speeds. He cut channels in the bedrock, made rivers in the oceans. He explored all the dark places under the water. In places, he tore the firmament and let the fire of the elemental planes spill into the oceans, and watched as the fire and water battled one the other. Aihrde laughed all the while, and when he did so, his mirth shook the waters and caused titanic waves that rolled to and fro across the world. He reveled in the water and made oceans his own. He built his home there, channeling the water of the Odin to make a house with walls and roof. It was massive, sprawling for leagues and leagues under the sea. And in the dark and murky depths it became a maze of thundering currents beneath the sea for any foolish enough to assail it. His hall bore no name until the time of the dwarves, and they called it the Green Halls. I've got tea with honey right here, please. It was known as a place where no ship could trespass, for the tumultuous waters tortured the surface with massive waves that battered ships to splintered wrecks. Others saw Aihrde's work and came to the waters too, and they slipped under them and swam the depths. But he was always the first and the greatest of those to command the waters. It came to pass that Aihrde stood upon a large outcropping of rock, laughing as waves battered the land to pieces. But as he watched, a great light sprung up across the water and stretched for as far as his eyes could see. Mesmerized, he watched it for a great while, In time, he realized that the light was a reflection of the heavens, and he looked up to see Aihrde, who brought light to the world in a broad curtain. He loved her then, for in her he saw a wondrous beauty and a joy that made all things cast gentle shadows. He dove into the waters and swam far out to sea, and called her to him with a horn he fashioned of shells. Aihrde heard the horn and saw Aihlde in the water below, and the sight of ocean captivated her as well. For the waters, calmed by the mind of Aihlde, cast back a reflection of her light, and she saw herself for the first time, not as she saw herself, but as the All-Father saw her. Cast in the mold of Mordias, she was a woman born, shapely with long silvered hair. She descended to the sea upon winds of her own making, and gently reached out to touch her reflection in the waters, but Aihlde had the better of her, and laughing, reached a hand through the water and pulled her into the deep quiet. He pulled her down, drowning the light of the moon, but for her part, she cared not, and laughed at his mischief as she swam with him. He brought her to his green halls beneath the water, and for her amusement created all manner of creatures. Thus, the fish, whales, and other beasts came to be. He made the merfolk in imitation of Aihrde and himself, and she placed the light of knowledge, given to her by the All-Father, in them, so that they peopled the sea for many ages. In time, Aihrde called to Aihrde, for he needed her light and her shape changed, as is told elsewhere. And Aihrde charged her to watch over her sister and make sure the light fell upon the earth. And Aihrde followed her father's bidding. Aihlde watched her race in the heavens and was much amused, and he saw her sister and was delighted. His mirth grew even greater when he saw storms brewing upon the surface of the water, caused by their madcap racing. He laughed, racing with them, and his joy shook the waters so that the oceans mirrored the storms of the air. But once in a while, he called to Aihrde with his horn of shell, seeking her to join him in the green halls. And she would come to him, for she loved him and loved the sea as well, and the world would then stand in darkness, and the moon be but a shadow in the sky. That is where we are going to end for tonight, and next time we meet, we'll learn a little bit more about the merfolk. But thank you all for watching. This was so much fun. I'm sorry that I started to lose my voice at the end there. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you so much, Chuck. I appreciate you. Hydrate or dihydrate. This tea feels really good. Nick, please, I can't take all these sips. Okay. Let's find somebody to raid. Noanar, thank you so much for joining. I hope you liked it. I know this was your first time. Shut up and drink. Shit, god damn it. Fuck. God. Hell yeah. Ugh. Okay. Who are we gonna raid? So many good options. Thank you so much, Wolfalone. I think we're coming out on the other side. Nick's still feeling pretty bad, but I think I'm starting to hopefully rise out of it. Let's raid Creep. It's been a while since we've raided Creep. It looks like they're either just starting or on a break, but I'm sure they'll be back pretty soon. When is the podcast version coming? Well, hey, maybe stay tuned. I don't know specifics, but I think that some of these readings are going to be uploaded on YouTube. And also, we've talked a little bit about eventually making an audiobook of the Codex into, well, an audiobook as like a Kickstarter stretch goal for any one of our many, many, many projects that are coming up. So if y'all want it, let us know. Bully Steve. And maybe we'll do it. We'll see. But for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go and we're gonna be sweet to Creep. We're gonna give her a lot of love. Codex audiobook would be cool. I would love to do it. I would love to do it. I would not lose my voice halfway through. Don't worry about that. I would love to like do it well and like, you know. But we are gonna raid. Thank you all so much for joining this lovely Monday. We'll be back next Monday. If you want to see more of my face, I believe episode 5 of the Storms Front, which I'm a player in, it's a Castles and Crusades actual play, should have been uploaded to YouTube today. If it's not, there's 4 episodes there that you can watch. And on Wednesdays, I DM a 5e game over on twitch.tv/HearthCoven and I'm on the internet, so come find me. But we will be back Monday with me, and then tomorrow Steve is doing an AMA, so if you got questions now, that's going to be a great time to put them there. I'm going to go and pass out and sleep. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye. Thank you, and I will see you next time.